Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Hands on SAP Dev with me, DJ Qmacro. Hold on. This is the wrong thing. Intro background. What's going on here? Let me just change that. We're in for a slightly different hands-on SAP Dev live stream. 1 second. Episode image. There we go. That's better. There we go. So yeah, welcome. So say hello if you've joined, and yeah, we're going to be doing some just general stuff today. It's a bit of an experiment. I think the general idea that I've got in mind is for me to just be here, not just for this regular hands-on SAP Dev hour, but maybe extend that a little bit as well, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, maybe people will turn up, maybe people won't turn up. But I think what I've been missing to an extent during this lockdown is, the interactivity and the general sort of shared presence. So yeah, I'm going to try and simulate that a little bit with this particular episode. And if it works, then, we might do it again. So I thought I needed some background tasks to do, so you can watch me do them and tell me that I'm doing them wrong, or make some suggestions, or just come along for the ride. So that is what we're going to be doing. So yeah, good morning and welcome. I can see we got some folks in the channel already, so say hi in the chat. I've got my coffee, I've got 2 biscuits, I have a shortbread and a chocolate biscuit, because this is going to be more than an hour. So we'll see how we get on. So what else is new? The SAP Developer News. Let me just switch to the main scene. The SAP Developer News is out. Let's go to the channel there and we can see. So let me just share that. Oh, yes. In fact, that reminds me. Let me go to here and let me just connect to this particular open working so I can share the developer news thing now with you. Yeah, there we go. So are you, somebody in the chat, I can see lots of people in there. So somebody just say hello. Sam Worley, good morning. Hi everyone. Hi to Sam Worley. Yes, so thank you. I had a slight panic when I was starting, because all of a sudden my laptop that I'm used for sort of monitoring the stream and also looking at the chat down here, that suddenly went off. So I was like, whoa, what's going on? So I've just plugged it back in. So in a way, I thought I'd be more relaxed because I don't have to rush and get things done in an hour. Good morning, good evening to you, Andrew. Yeah, I was thinking, oh yeah, well, it's going to be a bit more relaxed because I can take my time over things. I've no idea how long this is going to be. You can pop in, pop out, whatever. More of a social thing while I work on stuff. But because of that panic, it's like, oh my goodness, So I'm calming down now. So Johan, good morning. Harry, good morning. Shad, good morning. Thank you for joining. So we are going to be doing some stuff today together. And if I go back to the intro screen, you will see behind my head that I'm going to be doing open working. I don't know whether it's brave or stupid, but I'm going to be working on stuff that in front of you, like we're in an office together or something. I don't know. So and specifically, what I'm going to be working on is Bruno. Good morning, welcome. I'm going to be working on some issues in the developer keynote repository, because I think I need to get these issues looked at. As you can see here, I've got a couple of open issues, and one of those is 30 days old. One of those is between 10 and 30 days old, I guess. And one of those is over 30 days old. So I apologize profusely for, being somewhat tardy in addressing these issues. But I also say thank you to those who've raised the issues, because it allows us to sort of think about things a little bit more. if you're wondering what this is something I've recently put together using a really cool action from Edward Thompson, issue dashboard. So in fact, why don't I share that as well? Let me go there. This is a GitHub action, and you can do all sorts of things. You can have sort of open issues by type, and these behind the scenes in the configuration, all it is a bit of YAML configuration. You specify your GitHub issue and PR search criteria, and it puts it in a beautiful dashboard. So let me go there and share that as well. So I'm using that just for my own sake to sort of keep track of things. I've also got, for example, keeping track of stuff relating to the Open Documentation Initiative, what badges have been assigned and everything because of the valuable contributions and so on. Anyway, we're not going to go there. We're looking at the developer keynote, for example. You like to watch? Good. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. I like having you all here. So, and I'm hoping that when we look at these issues, it will give us a chance to talk about stuff and go a little bit deeper in things, and maybe share information between us on tools that we use and techniques. And you'll watch me do things and think, what a fool! What is he doing? Or you might think, oh, I've not seen that tool before. I'll have a look at that. So I'm drinking my coffee very fast. It's quite a nice coffee, actually. Anyway. So let's just dig in. Have I got anything else to share? Developer news. Just a couple of things in developer news that are sort of timely. The UI5Con on air is next week, and Recap, the CAP conference, is the week after next. So check out the SAP Developer News for links to those two conferences. So we've got a couple of issues, and I'm going to start working through these slowly and sort of, we'll meander through and see what we can find. I've also started experimenting with some categorization as well. So I've got labels here, component, brain. So why don't we start? Yeah, why don't we start with, well, in fact, they're both opened by Agesilaus, which is a beautiful name, a beautiful GitHub identity. Seems sort of slightly classical. Apart from the 3, of course, but from Burak. So thank you, Burak, for raising these. And again, apologies that I've not completely closed the circle. But I know this one here. I'd had a quick look at these. Hey, Napheat, good morning. Good morning. Oh, good morning. What time is it over there? 8 to 8. Maybe still good morning. Good morning. Welcome anyway, Napheat, old friend of the Hands on SAP Dev. Always nice to see you, and always nice to see everybody, of course. So yeah, mostly empty default-env.json after script-based generation. I think did I change the title of this issue just so I could help myself here? And in fact, I'm going to use the name Agesilaus because I like that name. You raised that back in April. And working through the brain component, give me a shout on the, hey Srinivas, hello, welcome Srinivas. Give me a shout on the chat if you're not familiar with the developer keynote repository. Hopefully you are. This is the content of all the components that we put together in our developer keynote at Techa 2020 back in December. And of course we've shared all the content, and we've been going through on this show, the Hands on SAP Dev show, on different episodes, going through the different components. And of course we've had superstars on as well, talking about their components, like Kevin and Rich and Marius, for example. So showing their components. So this is about the brain component. Okay, so let's get that into our brain. This is about the brain component, the thing that talks to the enterprise messaging bus and connects also to other things as well. So Srinivas is asking, wanted to ask you always, what does kubectl mean? Back in the early days of online presences and everything, I thought, well, I need a name, a nickname, or an online name that nobody else has already got. And I'm not very adventurous or imaginative, I think, if there's a word. And so I decided that kubectl is something that other people are unlikely to have, and kubectl is the name of a concept from R2, from SAP. This goes back to the early days of SAP, back to the 80s. I started working with SAP software in 1987, and I was working at a company implementing SAP as an employee of that company, oil company, and we were implementing R2, and it was all assembler. And this was even before we started really realizing, or ABAP was very young, and it was actually introduced around about then as a report, like a 4GL report writing language. All you could do is like write reports, like collect and append values and so on, and then just write them out with subheadings. And that was it. That was the whole idea of ABAP at the time. And you wrote ABAP just as some, plain text in some file input to a job in JSON and job control language. And that was it. There was no editor, nothing. So everything was written not in ABAP, but in assembler. In 370 assembler, because we were running on IBM mainframes. And a Q macro was a structure, a data structure. For example, a sales order header structure or a purchase order item structure, and it had extra metadata about that. And so that's what, in fact, have I got? I'm just going to leave my chair a minute. I've got it somewhere. I think you probably can still hear. Oh, there we go. Yes, I've got it in my bookshelf. There was a course. It was an internal SAP course, but we, in those days, we got hold of things like this. IT 400, an introduction to assembler programming. Let me switch again to the intro. So I've got this slightly bigger sort of camera thing. Native assembler and SAP batch programming from Peter Skov, dated the 7th of August 1989. I've got a printout of it here, and in there, and I got this copy. I did have my own copy, but I lost it. But then the wonderful Chris Swaley sent me a copy, a printout copy of this. So in here you will find all sorts of things, including the definition of what a Q macro is. Raw outline of the thing, assembler instructions, register uses in batch, LT org, data addressing. I'll give you, here's an example of what's in there. Q macros, page 62, 40, 62, 54, 56. See, I can do this. Now I know I'm going to be doing more than an hour. I can sort of do this and take time to properly answer questions. There we go. Q macros at the bottom of the page. So that is where I got Q macro from. Maybe a little bit of a long-winded explanation, but yeah, I hope that gives you an idea. So Nabheet, you thought it was linked to macros from Excel? Nabheet, you don't know me very well, do you? I thought you did. Anyway, no. So there. Yeah, and I've had that ever since. It's the only place I've not managed to grab Q macro, as it were, in a service, in a social media thing, was Twitter. That's why, Twitch, which is why on Twitch I'm Q macro 99, because somebody else grabbed Q macro. Typewritten, exactly. It is typewritten. It's beautiful. It's such a wonderful document. Anyway, I've got this dream in my head. Maybe some sort of, because you can fire up your own mainframe. MVS 3.8J is now free. You don't have to pay a license to IBM to run that. And of course, you can run it on the mainframe emulator, Turnkey, and Hercules rather, which is sort of put together with Turnkey. I would love to sort of run an SAP R2 system somehow there and get Anyway, that's another thing. So back to where we were. This is this issue. I'm going to be walking through this issue. We're starting from scratch so we can find a few things together. My love for Microsoft outweighs everything else. Microsoft do some awesome things. Microsoft do some absolutely awesome things. I'm just not such a fan of Excel. Anyway. So Agiseleas says, hello, I have an empty default JSON. Can we make that a little bit bigger? That's better, yeah. Empty default JSON. And in fact, what he's pointing to is an empty curly bracket. And my friend and colleague and our fearless leader, Tom, knew that I was away at the time and pointed out that there was an upgrade to the Cloud Foundry CLI. Okay. And, oh yeah, QMacro is away this week, which I put a heart to, which was nice. I think that basically was the issue, but I think it's worth looking at what really was behind the issue and seeing what the problem was and then solving it, and also exploring this new version of the CFCLI and thinking about also, I've got an idea of how we can explore the different version of the CFCLI without disturbing anything. So why don't we do that? Another session suggestion, perhaps someone from the ABAP language group talking about the language development itself. That's a really good suggestion, Andrew. On hands-on SAP dev, is that what you're talking about? Ping me on Twitter DM and remind me of that, and I'll see if I can get Rich to do one with one of the superstars inside of SAP. That's a really nice idea. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to have a look at this and yeah, put the brain component together. Now, why don't we go here? And in fact, I've got somewhere here, CF login. Yeah, okay, so what is it? No, wait a minute. There we go. Okay, so I've got a trial account on the business technology platform, which I think I've used before because I've got no apps in there, but I do have ZCF. It's a truncated version. I do have an old enterprise messaging service instance with the dev plan hanging around, so that'll do, I think. And yeah, let's use that to set it up. So why don't we first of all start from scratch and clone this? Fork it. Let's go through here. Maybe it's a little bit smaller. There we go. Let me know if that's still readable and everything. Fork. I'm going to fork to QMacro. God, I've got a lot of organizations and areas. I'm going to fork that. And I'm now going to clone it. CD project github.com QMacro. And the reason I'm going to clone it into here, I'm not going to think already, have I? No. So git clone that. The reason I've got this structure, this sort of folder structure, this directory structure, is because I've got this little thing that I can say go to GitHub, go to, and then teched, something, right? And it'll give me a selection of all the different GitHub repos that I've got locally. So teched, there we go. I've got lots of them, 44 altogether. So I can sort of say, well, I want to go to the contribution guidelines here, and I go straight there, and I look at the status, and I kind of carry on working there. I'm working on some sort of patch on that. So if I go to teched 2020, I go there. So that's what that is, and that's the reason I have this structure. Project GH for GitHub, github.com. I've got other GitHub enterprise servers that I connect to. So that's a really nice way of navigating and keeping myself sane here. So we've got that, and I think basically what we'll do is we'll open up Brave, and I'll log in to the system with this ID here, and we can see what I've got. And we'll just set the brain up and see if we can reproduce that error, because I'd like to be able to reproduce the error and sort of make it a little bit, make the solution nice and neat and tidy. I'm going to use my command line rather than the business SAP Business Application Studio, just because why not? Because we've already used the Business Application Studio in the previous series. So we can do a trial here. Okay, and I've got in here, I just had a look at this, yesterday, And I've got a couple of destinations in here. We'll keep those. These are relevant to our developer keynote. We've got the mock sales order thing. We also got the charity fund converter. So we've got the Marius's sort of API hub proxy mechanism, and we've got Kevin's charity fund converter. Now, I don't have anything, I don't think, anymore running in my Kyma. Let's just have a look at the instance there. Because my my trial account was expired and I refreshed it, and what happens when you refresh is that your Kyma instance gets recreated, but you lose all your stuff, and that was fine for me. So here we go. I've got my two environments. I've got my Cloud Foundry runtime environment. I've got my Kyma environment. So if I have a look at that, I can go to the dashboard, and there we go. I can. It's going to be pretty empty, I think. Yeah, default 0 pods, nothing, absolutely nothing in the default namespace. So we've got no pods, no replica sets, no deployments, no nothing, no services. Oh, we get obviously the Kubernetes service itself, no API rules. So that's where we're going to start. Okay, so we'll need to build the brain component and do all the things and get up to the state where, let's go back here actually now to the issue. Where is it? Issues, there we go, there. Where Agesilaus has been generating his default-env.json. Okay, default-env.json. Now, does anybody remember what this default-env.json is for? I think I do, but let me know in the chat what this is, what you remember. So Samuel says, off topic, inspired by your email address, yesterday we discovered that Gmail doesn't consider points in accounts address. Yes, one of the really cool things about Gmail, Gmail email addresses, is that you can have pluses and dots and all sorts of things. So my wife's email address, is michelle.something.adams, right? I'm not going to tell what something is, but we can leave the dots out as well, and that works as well. So yeah, it's really, really nice to have an email account that's flexible like that. My email, yeah, e.g. my email and my.email and m.email are the same address. Yeah, it's really cool. Hey, good morning, Ronnie, to Norway! Oh, I'm going to celebrate Ronnie's arrival with a bite of the... I have no Stormtrooper biscuits, Ronnie. But I've got a chocolate biscuit, which is quite nice. Yeah. Okay, so what do we need to do? Why don't we go and follow the instructions? Let's go to the TechEd Developer Keynote. Go to the brain. And look at the instructions. So this is the brain, which connects to the message bus, is subscribed to this sales order created topic, and what it does, it goes and uses that API proxy to go and get sales order information, and it also uses the converter to request a conversion of sales order amount to credits, and it also publishes another message back onto the message bus, right? So Prashil, good morning and welcome, by the way. It says default-env.json, local environment variable JSON. Yes, exactly. So default-env.json is let's call it a special file name where you can store values for environment variables. And these values will be then used by the runtime to provide... the entries here will be used to provide values for environment variables that are required or expected. So it's a really cool way of running stuff locally, but having connections, for example, in this case, having connections and authentication connections to services in the cloud. This is what we're using this for here. So what are we going to do? We're going to have a look through here. I'm not going to read through all this because we've done this before, but basically we need to set up the message bus, which we've done, and if we want to go all the way through to brain level 4, where's the thing here? There we go. Yeah, the brain level 1 logs the message details, the incoming message details. Brain level 2 retrieves the sales order header information from the sales order number that comes in on that message. Then we call the converter, then we publish a new event, right? So of course, we're going to need the API proxy, and we're going to need the converter, which we don't have either. So we'll just log the message details. because I think the problem that Agesilaus has described, is sort of independent of all this stuff. So let's do that. Let us, we've got the destinations already set up. So look at this here, destination setup. Yep, charity API mock sales orders. That's here. Where is it? Destinations. So we've got a few things that we don't have to set up ourselves. Did I click on that already? Destinations, come on. Come on. API hub mock sales orders and charity fund converter. And one of the nice things, at least when the Kyma cluster is recreated on a trial extension, it's the same name, which is really cool. So these URLs with this particular cluster ID, they're still valid, right? So that's that. So we've got those destinations set up. So let's set up the local service. Yeah, service instances. Oh, set up these services now. We need the destination service and the authorization trust management service. Now, the reason we need these is because we want to connect to them to be able to read the destinations. Okay. So let's do that. So let's read this. Running it, generate shelf now. There we go. This is the place where Agesilaus hit the issue, right? Locally, it's straightforward to run CAP applications and services locally, but when they consume cloud-based services, connection and credential information is required, and for local execution, this information is traditionally stored in a file called default-env.json. Because of what this contains, it is not normally included in any repository for security reasons, so we've got to generate this, okay? So if we look at the generate description here, oh, also this is something we can look at, potential security dependabot. Okay, that's good. We'll have a look at that maybe maybe later. And this is where I think he's experiencing the issue. So let's get to the stage where we can generate this. What we need are these two service instances. Let's go into here, and we need the destination service, and we need the authorization and trust management service, also known as XSUAA. So let's just create these things. CF create service. Let's go into here. Are we in the right place? Yeah. Tell you what we'll do. Hands on SAP Dev. Yeah, that'll do. Hands on SAP Dev. We'll just, anything we change, we'll change in a branch here. So we're not clobbering anything in the default branch. By the way, what is branch? Which branch? Oh yeah, of course, it's a dot files bash rc.d. Is it a function? Where is it? G branch. What is it? Oh, hold on. No, all right. We go here actually. Where is it? Bash rc.d grep branch. Ah, yeah, of course. It's an alias. So I've basically aliased the word branch, and it'll just do a git checkout -b to create the branch if it doesn't exist. And that's what branch is there. So there you go. Set it and forget it. That's what I did. Forgot what I was doing. So we're in this branch, and I'm now going to create this service. Why don't we also watch ZCF service? So we can see, oh, the service is already created. That's cool. There we go. Destination light, service destination, plan light. My naming convention is still, I'll just call the name of the instance based upon the service name and the plan name with a dash in the middle, so I can know what's what. We also need to create this XSUAA service instance. So let's go up here and do that. And there it is. Now, that means that we're now ready to go out of here and to set up this default-env.json file, okay? This is where the problem occurred, I think. So at the moment, if we go to here and have a look at the issues, have a look at this mostly empty default-env.json, Agesilaus is having this issue in the Business Application Studio. And what Tom said was that the CF-CLI in the Business Application Studio has been upgraded. In fact, so why don't we go to the Business Application Studio and have a look, just double check what the version of the CF-CLI is. It stopped. Let's just that's J. Type branch. Oh, type branch. Yes, type branch. Branches alias. Thank you, Samueli. Well, I see we're all learning together. I did know that, but I'd forgotten it. Useless brain. Thank you, Samueli. Yes. What did I try before? I can't remember. Which branch? Of course. That which will say where it is if it exists, right? If it exists in the path, basically. So if I say which CF, for example, it'll tell me where that is. Explained. Us type brain command to extend what branch is. Type brain or type branch? Did you mean somewhere? Type branch. Explained. Ah, okay. So come on, starting. By the way, is this useful? I mean, this is less intense, hopefully, and more sort of communal. So let me know what you think. I'm gonna have a little bit of a chocolate biscuit. Starting. While we're waiting, actually, we have CF on my machine here. We got the Cloud Foundry CLI version 6.53. Okay. Oh, it's running. So let's go into it. And there we go. Take a 2020 CF version 7.2. So that is probably what Tom has been. That's interesting. What Tom has been referring to, right? Message retracted. Okay. All messages, all welcome, all the time. So yeah, there we go. So this is CF version 7.2. So there's probably going to be something related to this. I think that's what Tom said, isn't it? Right. So let's go back to the command line. And let's just kill that. We don't need that anymore. So if we look at the description here, generating a default-env.json file, there's lots of ways of doing it. One way, what is in this default-env.json file? In this default-env.json file, which we are wanting, we want it locally, and we want it to contain connection and authentication details for the enterprise messaging service, for the destination service, and for the XSUAA service, instances thereof, so that the locally running brain component can connect to these different things. Right? Let's have a quick look. Where are we? CD cap, go into cap brain. Let's have a quick look here. Let's look in the package JSON, because in here we have a couple of clues as to why the brain needs this stuff, right? And Andrew is saying, what a wonderful observation. Andrew is saying, I'm enjoying my Riesling and the relaxed conversation. Thank you, Andrew. So am I. It is pair programming simplex mode. How wonderful is that? Pair programming simplex mode. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I may just quote you on that on Twitter. So the reason why the brain needs, for example, the connection and authentication details for the destination service. Well, let's go for the destination service first, is because we're defining here how to connect to the S4 sales order service, let's call it, thing, through details in this credentials stanza. I'm not sure I like the color scheme. 1 second. Preview. Bong bong. Let's go to this one here. That's better. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Let me know if this is better or worse readability wise. Let me know. If you've got a color scheme that you fancy, let me know as well. It's all about the relaxation, right? This tells us that, yeah, this S4 sales order thing, let's go down to there. Oops. No, this S4 sales order thing is reachable by this destination, API Hub mock sales orders. And that destination is exactly what? Ooh, I went to the wrong thing. Press the wrong button, sorry. Press the wrong button. It's exactly this destination here, API Hub mock sales orders, right? So in order to read the details, these details in this destination on my trial account in the cloud, the brain component when running locally is going to need to connect to a destination service to say, give me the details of this destination so it can connect to it, right? In order to do that, it also, by the way, needs an instance of the XSUAA service, as in the authentication service, so it can actually be allowed to read that stuff. Okay, so that's why we also need the details, the connection and authentication details for the XSUAA service, right? Which doesn't yet exist in the destination service. Oh, it does. Sorry, it does. We created it, didn't we? Yeah, we created it. ZCF service. Yeah, we've now got the EMDev enterprise messaging service, the application, the XSUAA, and the destination service, right? So we need that. Also, of course, this thing is asking for the enterprise messaging, a connection to the enterprise messaging thing. So it needs enterprise messaging connection information and credential information. So that is what we're looking for in this default-env.json file, right? And this description here, this page describes one way of getting that. And one way of getting that is basically to create a simple app on Cloud Foundry, bind that app to the instances of the services we need, and then grabbing that app's environment, which will then include what we want. And that is exactly the content that we'll need for the default-env.json, because it'll have the details of how to connect to the services it's bound to and how to authenticate with the services it's bound to. Okay. Hey, Astet. Hi, everyone. I just reached. Do we need still Cloud Connector? Not for this. If you are, for stuff that we're doing in this live stream right now, we're not going to be using the Cloud Connector. If we were connecting to an on-premises SAP system, for example, from the Business Technology Platform, then we would need the Cloud Connector. I wonder if it was this actually. The Cloud Connectors here, I don't think I've got any Cloud Connectors connected, but this wonderful little section or display in the Business Technology Platform reappeared after a long absence. It must be said, it reappeared, which is really nice. I think we announced it in one of the SAP Developer News episodes a few weeks ago. So no, to answer your question, Astet, we don't need the Cloud Connector for this particular live stream and things that we're doing here. We've done some live stream episodes on the Cloud Connector. If it would be worthwhile doing some more, we could do some more, but yeah, we don't need it. Anyway, where were we? Oh yes, sorry, I digress all the time. So that's what we'll do, and that's what this thing does here. So following the approach, step by step, we'll create an app, right? We'll create an app, we'll push an app that's got nothing in it, okay? So this is basically making sure that app doesn't already exist. Then we'll deploy an empty app, nothing in it at all. And then we'll bind those service instances to the app, right? And then we'll have a look at the environment of the app, and let's just put it in there, okay? So why don't we do that now? If we say, let's just grab this thing here, CF push. What I'm going to do, actually, what I want to do, I don't want to try too many things at once right now, but I noticed that GitHub by default now gives you a little copy thing, which would be useful to say, oh, just copy that whole thing. So, and also I think it's maybe better practice not to include the prompt in these things. Let me know in the chat if that would be helpful for you. If all you saw was not just the prompt, because I always thought the prompt was helpful to say, well, this is the prompt and this is what it looks like and this is where you are, but maybe not. So let's grab this. CF push, no root, no start. Don't start it. Don't give it a root. Just give it the minimum 64 megs of minimum 64 megs of data and 32 megs of memory, 64 megs of storage. You know, that sort of thing. So let's do that. CF, there's no apps right now. ZCF apps. No, so we don't need to delete it because it doesn't exist. So let's just do that now. And why do I do this again? Watch, because it's going to be interesting, I think, to see. Watch ZCF services. There we go. So now, what it wants us to do, it was me that wrote this, what an idiot, is bind this new app to these three services, right? With CF bind service. So let's do that. CF bind service. My temp app to emdev. And hopefully we should see down here my temp app. So my temp app is now bound to the enterprise messaging service instance that we've got here. I'm going to do the same thing. Destination. What's jiggling over there? It's annoying me. I can hear something jiggling. I think it's when I'm typing. It's that light. It's that switch on the light that's lighting the green screen. Do that, and also the. Is it that? What's going on? No, stop now. XS UAA application. There we go. Okay, so let's get rid of that. That should be now. That should appear. There we go. It's appeared. Mohammed, good morning, Mohammed, and welcome to you. Welcome to you. Welcome to everybody. So now what do we want to do? We've got this app, CF-env, what's it called again? My temp app. Now, we're going to delete, what I'll do is what shall I do? I want to show the environment, but of course, you know, I want to make it so that if somebody is watching right now, I'm going to delete this at the end anyway. So yeah, no, we're going to delete this app at the end, so that's cool. Let's have a look what's in there. So default-env.txt, okay? So what we're saying is give me the environment of my temp app and pipe it into default-env.txt. Yeah, let's look at it now. Default-env.txt. This has got information on set wrap, and let's have another thing here. There we go. That's oh, sorry. I meant to do set no wrap. There we go. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it, isn't it? Yeah. So it chops things off so you can't see everything. Further down. Yeah. Whoop. Ah, chocolate on the keyboard. Okay. So this has given us some system provided environment variables. VCAP services. Does anybody know what VCAP stands for? Where it came from? I think we've covered this before, haven't we? Have a think. Let me know in the chat. We've got within here. Actually, what we should do. No, sorry. We've got the destination information, right? And we've got the enterprise messaging information. And we've got that's quite a large one. And we've got the XSUAA information, right? So that's it. So in that section here, which starts down here, up here, and goes all the way up to the top, there, all that information there, the VCAP services, is exactly what we want. It contains information about the bindings to those service instances for this MyTemp app, right? But what we're going to do is use this binding information for our brain, for our local brain execution. Which keyboard? Well, it's funny you should say that, Andrew. I've temporarily switched back. I'm not sure I like it, but switched back to this this Logitech K380. I've got this new Philco mini layout, which is nice, but I'm having some problems with the Bluetooth with that. So I've just gone back to this temporarily. So yeah, it's quite good, you know. It's just a bit flat after having used a mechanical keyboard for so long. It's very flat. So Samuel is thinking maybe cap capability, V instead. Actually, it comes, I think, from VMware. I think the V in VCap is VMware. Might be wrong. But yeah, I think it's VMware capability. I don't know. So CF environment variables, but why VCap? I'm not sure. Let's just check. Let's go here. VCap VMware stands for. No, that's not right. VMware Certified Advanced Professional. No. VMware VCap. What? It's not Certified Advanced Professional. Maybe VCap Services Environment Variable. VCap VMware Cloud Application Platform. That's it. I knew it was something like that. Yes, VMware Cloud Application Platform. So there we go. Now we know. So we want to extract this information and put it in default-env. And this is where Agesilaus is an issue. So let's run, if we have a look at the description here of running a script, let's run this script, okay, default-env-gen, okay, and we specify a new app name, okay, so it'll delete that previous app. So let's do that again, right? So default-env-gen, I can get rid of that one now, can't I? Yes, there we go. Default-env-gen, let's go down here again. Why don't we just leave that there, right? Watch ZCF services. And what we'll also do is have another one, watch ZCF apps. Okay. MyTemp app. So we'll say to default-env-gen, let's just do that. There we go, that's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. Let's see what happens. Deleting app MyTemp app. Okay, so the bound app should disappear, and the app should disappear. And knowing is half the battle. Great point. It is, Ronnie. Knowing is like, you know, there are so many questions all the time that I have. It's like, why is this like this? And what's that for? And what's that mean? And why is this like this? It's always good to know, right? To find out. I'm almost out of coffee. I've got some water here. What time is it, by the way? 8:49, and we're still relaxed. Okay, so there we go. So we've done it again. Now, what's happened is that, let's just zoom that in a second. We've now got a default-env.json, 8:49, date, time, 8:50, yeah. So the default-env.json looks good, right? We can do, we'll run this, I'll delete this in a second and run this one more time. So there's the VCap services. We go to the bottom, that's it. So that's what this script does. Now, going back to the issue, mostly empty. I think there was an upgrade to the CF CLI, and with it, the format of CF-env command has changed, breaking this script. Now, this was a super catch from Tom, and also it's sort of my fault for relying on CF-env. You know, I am of the mind that if you're going to write a CLI, be consistent in what it spits out. Yes, the CF command line tool has a more formal way of requesting data, which we'll look at shortly. I looked at this. But that's no excuse for being sloppy and inconsistent with the output, right? The Unix philosophy doesn't gel with that. But it's also no excuse for me for relying on that and assuming that will be the case. So what Tom is saying here is he created this default-env-gen 7, right? So that's default-env-gen 7, not 8, 7. And what Tom added was this bit, local GUID equals CF app name, GUID. We'll explore what that is in a second. He installed JQ. We've already got JQ installed, but that's, this is belt and braces, that's cool. And then he said instead of saying CF-env app name and then using this sed command, which I had written to parse out and pick out the output and grab the VCAP services part of the output, he's using CF curl. Now, before we do that, hey, Volker, you're not late to the party. That's actually maybe the point, right? I don't know whether you know, but this is a bit of an experiment. I'm going to go beyond the hour, right? This is more a open working thing where I'm just looking through and hopefully, Tom's already solved this particular issue on the developer keynote, but I want to put some information in and also, do things, work openly so we can discover things together. Let's have some water. So, Tom was saying that the new CF CLI version outputs something different. Now, I have been playing. I've been playing around with Docker more, and I like the concept. Docker image list, trunk. I've been playing around with Docker, and I like the idea of using Docker to not install things but use them. There's also a really interesting conversation that we could have about using Docker containers for throwaway development environments and reproducible development environments. I also did see something about Docker environments as a thing from Docker, where you can share, here's my test setup with my editor and the files and the runtime configuration. Go and please help me debug this. Have a copy, right? So Volker says, yeah, open working, great. I'd really like to do that as well, e.g. for CDSPG or WDI5 or some UI tooling stuff. Yeah, I'd love to join you on that as well. So yeah, this is an experiment, but maybe we'll do it again. Seems to be going okay. So yeah, I keep looking at the time, knowing, I suppose in my brain, knowing we're almost coming to the end of the hour. I've done this so often now, but we're going to go past it. Maybe another hour or so. See how it goes. So I did have a quick look, and I found a Docker image. Docker Gover, there. This is a container for running the Cloud Foundry client, right? Container for running Cloud Foundry client. It includes some packages commonly used when deploying CF. So I would like to use this to try out the CF CLI version 7 without installing it. Okay, so Ronnie says, I use VS Code dev containers for Fury. That is using Docker. Yes, exactly. I do have a feeling that this whole, Docker's been around for a long time. But I think for people like me, I've been thinking about this idea of containerized, compartmentalized things for a while, but never really done anything about it. So I want to take a first step in doing this sort of thing. So let's use this government parse CF CLI Let's see what happens, right? So docker run. Let's see what it's. Well, let's read the instructions. There we go. Docker run, interactive, TTY, CFCLI, CF. Yeah, okay. Docker run, IT government pass, CFCLI, CF version. In fact, Docker, was it? It is called CFCLI. Yeah, of course it's called CFCLI. The reason I'm specifying the full name is because I've not built it locally, right? So, but also I want it to go away when I finish, remove the containers to disappear once I've run this. So let's just run this, see what happens. Oh, it's not version, is it? But that seemed to do something, didn't it? CF version. Sorry, well, it's not minus V, it's minus V, isn't it? What? CF minus V? No? CF version? Docker run? What? CF V? Oh, I'm passing the minus RM to CF, I think. There we go. Right. So it shows we can run a version of CF, for example, that we don't have. It's quite cool. So Ronnie says, gives me an isolated environment that is transportable and doesn't pollute the host computer. That's the key for me. Not polluting the host. I don't, you know, I'm happy with CF CLI version 6 at the moment for whatever reason. You know, I don't want to deal with, oh, I've installed a new version now, what's going to break or whatever. So, you know, run things in containers all the time, containers. So if now my, I've got my .cf directory in my home, which has config, which well, let me just check. Let me just go to secret for a second. Vi home.cf config to see if what's in there. And yeah, okay, I can't really show that. That's got all my access tokens in. So I go back here to main. I'm not going to show you what's in there, but that's got my authentication details for various CF targets, right? So theoretically, I could do this, right? Docker run and add a volume mount, a bind mount, home.cf environment CF, is it CF home equals temp? And then we'll, instead of doing CF, we'll say bash. cdtmp, oops, cdtmp, echo CF home. So if I say CF services, okay, CF home is where .cf is supposed to be, isn't it? Okay, what I'll do is I will just copy, I don't want to mount my home in there, but let's mount this in there. CF to here, right? So we've now got the CF directory. This.cf, no, CF, copy, this.cf, that's better, right. Oh, hey Tanmoy, hello there, welcome. That's that's really nice, actually, that Tanway arrives when we're not finishing. Really cool. Yeah, we're going to carry on. So now I've got CF in here, so I could do this, right? I think. Docker run. Let's mount our current working directory into temp. Oh, actually, what we could do as well is say working directory temp. So we'll go straight in there, right? I think. No, what? Docker help. Docker run help. I thought it was a work dear. Working directory into work. Oh well. Oh, sorry, I put it in the wrong place, didn't I? Put it in between the E and the thing. The work directory temp. There we go. So CF echo CF. This is a long-winded, but we'll get there, right? Temp CFA. This minus A CF export CF home equal. Is it CF home? CF home. CF home, yeah. CF home is supposed to point to I thought I could use my credentials. .cf config and JSON. What am I not doing right? CF home temp CF. It's not that, is it? It's. I thought CF home was supposed to point to where your CF is. It's there. Config.json. Oh well. All right. Well, that's annoying me that I can't figure out what's going on. What am I doing wrong here, folks? Let me know. Tell me. Well, let's go back. Actually, yeah. What we could do. We could try it here, right? CF home equals here. Interesting. So it's not working here either. .cf. CF home. Getting started using a CF home. Down find a reference. Path to dir. CF home. Path override path to default configuration directory. That's what we want. Path to directory. Ooh, hold on. CF home. CF home equals POD echo CF home. Burak. Burak. Have you just joined? We are looking at your issue. That's you, isn't it? Welcome, Burak. Yes, I've been saying your name, Agisileus. Well, this is exactly what we're looking at, and sort of, enjoying the discovery. So yeah, we're looking at your issue. How nice is that? So let us know. This is puzzling. CF home. If I do that, no API endpoint set. Let's go into here. CFA. Echo CF home. That's not set, but the default is that. So if I say CF home equals that CFA, I'm not understanding what CF home is. Then am I? PWD. Okay, so let's say export CF home equals pwd with a slash on the end. Unless it really is pwd.cf. What is going on? CF home. Why is CF home so hard to use? Override path to default configuration directory. CF home. CF home. CF home. Oh, great. CF environment variables, CF home is not in there. That's helpful. CF home. CF home dot CF. Okay, interesting. Maybe this will give us a clue. CF home. That's all right, but right, you don't have to watch the whole video. Just join us now. It's really cool. CF home. Yeah, CF home. That's so it's relative to where the .cf is, right? We'll just give it one more minute to try this, and then we'll just log in, right? Let's go back here. Let's get rid of these as well. We don't need these. Echo CF home. It is CF home. CF home. CF. Let's just do a CF login here, right? That's interesting. AP. CF. API CF EU10, right? API HTTPS API dot what was it? CF EU10 dot on HANA dot on demand.com. Oh, interesting. Have you seen this? This is crazy. If it's happening. I put some white space at the end of that, right? The CF command sort of explodes. Crazy, right? Crazy. API dot cf.eu10.hana.ondemand.com. Okay. Weird. Okay. Anyway, let's go away from that. Let's bring that in there. So let's now run CF home equals temp. Let's do that again, right? Yeah, API CF. So CFA. What? It's working now. What happened? What? So maybe the authentication, once I'd moved the files, did I really move config? Maybe I didn't move config. Maybe when I moved or copied the files from my home directory into the brain directory, I didn't copy all the files by mistake. So maybe it was genuine. Who knows? But that's okay. So now CF version. Now, what we'll do, we're in here, right? What we'll do is we'll say cf-env my temp app. There we go. So we'll do that here. Do that again. cf-env my temp app, and we'll say default-env.txt 7, right? Version 7. Okay. So now let's have a look. Let's leave that Docker container. We now have the default-env.txt. There we go. Look at that. There's default-env.txt. Where is it? There, right? Getting environment variables for app, my temp app in blah, blah, blah. Okay, new line, space, system provided, colon, new line, open curly brackets. That one, there's no OK. There's no space. So my very brittle sed script is unable to pull out that information from the version 7 output of default-env.txt. If we run this, right, if we have a look at the default-env-gen script, you'll see that it'll just basically run the output of cf-env through the sed. Have a look. So let's have a look. Let's do the cf-env. Let's just do that. Yeah, there we go. grep cf-env default-env-gen. So we've got it in front of us. So cf cat, useless use of cat, I know, but anyway, default-env.txt7. Let's pipe that into sed with this file here, default-env-gen sed. And there we go. That is the problem. That's where the problem came from. If we were to do this and pipe in the output of the cf-env from CF version 6, we get some nice information. So that was what the problem was, my fault. And what we'll do then is we will investigate what Tom did, so we understand what he did, right? So what Tom did, default-env-gen 7, was first of all do this: local GUID equals cf app -- GUID, and then use that GUID in here, right? So grep GUID default-env-gen 7. So we can have a look there. So if we do this manually now, cf app my temp app. If we do that without the GUID, we get the sort of the health and status. But if we say just give me the GUID, we get an apps GUID. So Andrew, how will you fix this so we are not so brittle? Well, we're just about to answer that question, which is basically to not rely on the output of cf-env, because as we can see, it's changed between CF versions. All right, there are major versions of CF 6 to 7, right? So they're allowed to do breaking changes, but come on. But what I should be using really is the cf-env, right? That is, I suppose that is a philosophy. I'm not sure I agree with that philosophy. Like, don't rely on the output of these CLI commands, so don't script with them or anything, but use this, API version instead. Anyway, that's just me, my personal opinion, which is probably wrong. Or misinformed anyway. So we're going to use the cf-env. That's what we're going to do, Andrew. So if we see now cf-env, right? cf-env, we can see at the top there. Sorry, cf-curl rather. cf-curl is the way to invoke the API. And what we want is v3 apps. In fact, cf-curl apps v3. This is what we're doing here. Cloud Foundry API v3. Strange documentation page. Oh, right, there we go. Apps. Links, authentication, authorization, errors, introduction, apps. There we go. Apps. The app object. That's what we want, right? We've got the app has a GUID and list apps, update an app, the app object, create an app, get an app, get an app. Okay, we want to get an app. But what we specifically want is to get the env part of the app. So /v3 apps and then env. Where's env? Apps env. Oh no, env /env. There we go. So we get a link here, environment variables /env. Get environment for an app. That's what we're looking for. Retrieve the environment variables that will be provided to an app at runtime. It will include environment variables for environment variable groups and service bindings. So that is the heart of the solution here. Oh, your modem is slow, running at 1200 baud. Okay, so apps, and then the GUID, right? So we want the app GUID. There. Env. Oh. There we go. That's what we're looking for. Or more specifically, we get the VCAP application there. Let's have a go up there. And we also get the VCAP services, and that's what we want. So that's why system-env.json, look at the system-env.json, that's the node in the JSON that we want, right? So what Tom is also doing here is using JQ to pull out the value of system-env.json. So if we say here, do that again, and pipe it into JQ system-env.json, we get exactly what we're looking for. So that's a lot less brittle, more reliable, the proper way of getting default-env. So I think that is the issue, right? That's the issue. So what should we do? What should we do? We'll fix. Now Tom has already provided somewhere. Yes, Tom has already provided, I think, a default-env-gen 7. But actually, this should work with both versions of CF, right? In fact, let's test it. Let's test it on the CF version 7 and make sure. And then we can actually then we can get rid of the version 7 specific and then just fix the original script. Who will update the dev container? Aha. Oh yeah, I suppose we could do this, right? If we've already now got that CF, let's just do a CF version again, just see if that works. Yeah, and CF apps, oops. So I'm running each of these commands in a very short-lived Docker container. CF apps. That somehow blows my mind that I can run a different version of CF that's not installed, that's just in a container that exists for the lifetime of that command, and that's it, and then the container goes away again. So we can say cf-env, in fact, cf curl v3 apps, that GUID should be still in my buffer, env, and pipe that into JQ. What was it? It was system-env.json, that's right, system-env.json, system-env.json. Lots of spaces in there, but it looks right, yeah? So in fact, if we, why is there so many spaces? Let's just pipe that into JQ. There we go, yeah. So yeah, seems to work. So what we'll do is we will replace, let's go back, actually now let's open up a new window in Tmux and go to the SAP TechEd 2020. There. So now with that G, I've switched to SAP-samples TechEd 2020. I'm doing some updates, just text updates, but what I will do right now is check out, go back to main. Anything to pull down? I don't think so. So branch fix env-gen. Okay, there we go. Cap brain So really what we want is to default-env-gen, generate a default-env-json file, default-env-gen, expect a single language argument, contain the vcap services. Yeah, there we go. So this is all the same. We don't need the sed command file. We're going to get rid of sed, aren't we? So that's fine. And remove any existing app, bind services. Oh yeah, so let's have a look at Gen 7. Let's have it down there. And we want to do something very similar to Tom, right? We'll just bind it into the thing here. So we'll request the environment. Okay, yes, request environment info. So instead of doing this, we'll say, is this within a thing? Main, local app name, local instance. I'll do my locals here. Local app GUID. Put that there. Local app name. I'm not. App GUID. Yeah, okay. App GUID appears unused. Okay, fine. That's cool. So now app GUID equals. Let's just do this. Do it right. For me, cf app app name GUID. Let's get the GUID. Nice. And now all we want to do is go down here and do this cf curl. We've already got JQ installed in the App Studio because of the App Studio setup script in the repo. So we don't need to install JQ. So now we will, let's copy that line actually, bring that up there. CF curl v3 apps GUID, app GUID, let's just see app GUID, JQ, our system environment, yeah, we don't need that either. Let's just keep it as a minimum there, into target file name. I think that's right. Yeah, okay. And also default-env-gen 7, we can get rid of that one now. So in the, where are we? Yeah, in the default-env-gen, we don't need that one either. So let's have a look at the status. We've modified default-env-gen, we've got rid of the sed, and we don't need the temporary, but wonderful, fix. Seems all right, doesn't it? So git diff. We've got rid of that. Read only. Ooh, that's interesting. Yes. Look at line 28 there. This one. I think. Let's get rid of that. If I go down here, yeah. So the reason, nobody may be interested in this, but I'm interested in this. Why is there a space there, right? This is saying that this line has changed. I've not touched that line, but it's put a space after the two greater than, as in after the standard error redirect. And the reason for that is because I'm using ALE, the asynchronous linting engine, in my Vim, in my editor, and I'm using shfmpt, the shell formatter. Okay, and the shell formatter will operate as a fixer, not just as a linter, not just as a, hey, this is wrong, but I'll fix that for you, as a, like a prettifier. And it's an opinionated shell script formatter. So that's what's happening. Shfmpt. I've got indent with two spaces. I'm allowing binary operations to start a new line, and other options as well. I do have a linter, Andrew. Yes. So I've got a number of linters. I've got the shell check linter for specifically talking about shell scripts. I've got the shell check linter, which will tell me things like, let me go into vim default-env-gen, right? So it's all clean, but if I were to say, for example, oh yeah, here we go. What? Default what? What? Oh, hold on. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Okay, phew. It doesn't matter where I am. I've just opened up a new window, but it's gone into the Q macro one. Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to be. So if I were to say, for example, cf-env app name, right, and I've got the linter to set up to be lint on save. It says here, you can see in the gutter, it got sort of shell check 2086 double quote to prevent globbing and word splitting. And the wonderful thing is that all these SC208, all these different messages, I've got a little, extension to Google. I've done a special search thing for shell check 2086. You can have a look at the details. It'll take you to a wonderful wiki page to explain why the code is problematic, what a better version of the code should look like, and a bit of a rationale. So shell check was my find of 2020. It's amazing. Yes, wrong place. Yes, thank you, Andrew. So that's that. So let's go back there. So that's what I'm using as a linter, as well as I'm using the shell language server as well. Well, maybe I'll do that another time. I'm also linting YAML, and I'm also linting Markdown. I touched on the Markdown linter a little bit when we looked at the Open Documentation Initiative with Markdown lint. So there we go. Right, so that's that. So the Schfumpt, the opinionated formatter, said, we want some spaces after the redirect there. So that's what that is. We've got rid of the cf-env, and we've removed that, and these are new as well, right? These are new, 44 and 45, and we've removed the default-env-gen.sed, and we've also removed the default-env-gen 7. Yeah, the messages are brilliant, aren't they? There we go. So that's it. So I think, so the status, changes not set, git add those things, git status, yeah, git commit. Now, what is this here? TechEd 2020. That is issue number 25. So git commit. Use cf curl for env info. Tom rightly fixed this with a more stable version, stable way to pull info for an app. This replaces the use of some sed incantations to parse out the info from a cf-env command. Fixes 25. Now, we've got that, so I'm going to, where are we? Yeah, I'm going to do a pull request. Ooh, pull request. So using Samuela's type PR. PR is alias to git push set upstream origin, get the branch, and do a PR create with the gh command. Pull request. Okay. Title, use cf curl for env info. Yeah, that's it. Actually, we don't need to. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do for the pull request. We'll submit. GHPR view in the web. Oops. On the web. There we go. All checks. What checks am I doing? Can't remember. There we go. Use cf curl. Let's have a look. What checks have been done? Show all checks. Oh yeah, license CLA, of course. There we go. What are you programming? Hey Hamza, welcome. We are working on some issues, specifically one right now from Burak, which is relating to the way that I incorrectly tried to parse the output of a Cloud Foundry env command for the code that we had for our SAP TechEd 2020 developer keynote. And it's, the idea is we got so fairly relaxed here. I might go and get another coffee in a minute actually, and we'll just carry on. So that's that one. So I think, do we need to do anything else? Folks in the chat, have I missed anything here? I think we're okay with that, aren't we? Fixes 25. This pull request closes issue 25. That's one of the magic incantations you can put in an issue, for example, like fixes or addresses or something like that. And I think once we merge this PR, that issue will be automatically closed. But I'll add some text to the issue as well. Yeah, let's merge it. Yeah, merge. Ooh, look, linked issues. Successfully merging this pull request may close these issues. There we go. That's what I just said, isn't it? Yes. Delete branch. Yes, delete the branch. Fix env-gen. Now let's have a look at that issue. It's closed. Cool. I'll add a little bit here to say, where's our thing here? Open working. Yeah, let's merge it. Hi, Giseleas. We addressed this in the open working live stream. Hope this is okay. Basically, you got a single because the output of cf-env at version 7 is different to the output at version 6, and the said based parsing was too brittle to cope. My fault entirely. Tom corrected this at the time with a temporary version. The associated PR makes this permanent. There we go. So that's that first bit. Andrew, thanks for joining. And have a lovely weekend. Thank you so much for joining. So we have now, Baruch, are you still there, by the way? I think you added some extra bits, right? When you run npm start, it starts fine. Oh, hold on, this is you. When running on script, the JSON file was created, but this time we got an error like the picture in the CDS run. Now, let's have a look at this as well, because I think this is quite interesting. I do know that the enterprise messaging, basically the message bus, the event mesh support in CAP is still fairly new. I don't know whether it's still in beta or not, but let's just think of it in those sorts of terms. So things are changing slightly as they roll out support for multi-tenancy, for example. So yeah, let's have a look at this. In order to do this, we'll have to actually run the brain. Okay. Now, how are we doing for time? What time is it? 9:35. Yeah. Cool. Let's keep going. Shall we keep going? Let me know if this is useful. So let's go back here, and we're in SAP-samples. I don't want to be in there anymore because that's. Oh yeah. Okay. Let's go back to main. Oh, check out main. Actually, git pull. Yep, and git branch delete fix env-gen. There we go. So we're up to date with that. That's cool. So this really is a separate issue, isn't it, Giseleas? But let's have a look at this anyway. when I ran your script, the JSON file was created, but this time I got an error like the picture in the CDS run. Okay, so let's go back to here, to QMacro. So we've got, what have we got here? Have we got a default-env.json? Yes, we have. Okay, that's good. So if we say cd, in fact, let's go back to the instructions. Default-env-gen, mostly empty. We've got one there. So let's go back into the code, into the README, into the brain. Let's just make sure we're all following the same thing. Let's go into the brain. And there we go. Let's install stuff and deploy it. Yeah. So CDS, npm. Have we got a node modules directory already? No. npm install in the brain. Ooh, always nice to see that. But anyway, let's do that later. And now CDS. Well, CDS version. What version have we got? We've got 4.4.7 of CDS. CDS deploy. This will just cause the creation of the brain.db file. So we're using SQLite here. And then let's run it. CDS run. The default brain level, if you remember from previous episodes, is brain level 1, but it'll just log things. So CDS run. Let's see what happens. There we go. Now, that's fine. And in fact, if we go to the emitter, this is this part. If we publish a sales order created thing, let's just make sure that things work and the brain receives this sales order created message from the bus that it's subscribed to, right? And then we'll look at this problem. So we see if we say emit 1, for example. Wow, it works. Okay, so yeah. So the message is received, that's fine. So we know that, well, I mean, we didn't see any error messages anyway, right? So we know that the brain is successfully connected to the message bus. Okay. So let's have a look at Barak's issue here. When I ran your script, make that a bit bigger. Where is it? When I ran your script, the JSON file was created, but this time I got an error like the picture in the CDS run command. Error like the picture in the CDS run command. The inbound adapter for multi-tenant enabled enterprise messaging is not yet implemented. For single tenancies, you can use the kind enterprise messaging shared. Now, this relates, this error message, this relates to the definition of this messaging thing that's in the requires section within CDS. And the CAP team are moving towards support of single tenancy and multi-tenancy. And there's a slight difference in the way these things are handled. So at version 4.4.7, was it 4.4.7 CDS version? 4.4.7, right? We're using this enterprise messaging kind. But, and I think this is what Tom was referring to. I keep trying to scroll down with my Vim key, sorry. Tom said, did you change the version of the SAP CDS module in the package JSON of the CAP brain? Right? So let's do that. Tom says, if I update my project to 5.0, then I get the same error. Okay. So let's go back up here and update that semantic version requirement to version 5, major version 5. Okay. npm install. let's just update this to stop this message appearing. npm install globally npm physician heal thyself, npm update thyself. Okay, so CDS version now is 5.1.5. Now we now run CDS run again. Oh, that works. Oh, no, it doesn't. Ah, there we go. So we get it's a slightly different message, but it's to do with the same thing, right? So we've got here this thing. Enterprise messaging. You need to provide an endpoint to your application. It's not got an endpoint. And we can see this is needed because incoming messages are delivered through the HTTP via webhooks. In case you want to use enterprise messaging in shared, that means single tenant mode, you can use kind enterprise messaging shared. So let's try that. CDS run. There we go. And it now manages to connect the right way to the single tenant shared concept, right? So that basically was also what Tom was saying. I created a new cap in my, you created a new cap in my BAS and didn't receive this error. So you want to know where the problem is. Thanks for your patience. CDS 4.6.5. So I think between 4.4.7 and 5.1.5, this has changed. So let's just add this as well. Hi again, Gisileus, on the CDS version and enterprise messaging. Ooh. Kind. There are changes relating to single multi-tenancy support, and you may need to use enterprise messaging shared in later versions, in newer versions of CDS. See the live stream around 9:43, 100 minutes in. Copy link address. Okay, I think that's okay. Yeah, let's spend another 10-15 minutes just starting to look at another one. Let me know if this has been useful. You know, it's definitely a different thing. Issues 1, you know, just hanging around together. Kyma brain component deployment error, also by Burak. When I try to deploy my brain Docker image from GitHub Actions, I'm getting this error. So this, yeah, maybe we should do this one next. But again, let's set things up, because I don't have much hanging around in the form of the repo setup here as far as Kyma is concerned, as far as Kubernetes is concerned. But let's do that together. Right, I'm just going to go for a very quick break. A little, what do you call them? What's a nice way of saying it? A nature break. I'll be back. Sorry, I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Okay, I'm back. So, yeah, let's get our brains, no pun intended, let's get our brains around the Kyma aspects of this whole developer keynote. Let's work out together. Let's find our way in the through the dark, and get to the point where Burak got to here with this issue. Okay, and let's see what we can learn along the way. Right, so I do have. Okay, that's fair enough this time. Come on. Browser reload, dev space manager. We don't need that anymore. And that, and oh, we had it there anyway. Anyway, so what? That's interesting. It was 20. Oh, anyway, who knows? Instances and subscriptions. That's good. Extensions is always good, right? 52. So we can go into our dashboard, our Kyma dashboard, and remind ourselves. I only looked at this earlier this morning. It was so long, it feels so long ago now. Got nothing there, right? So let's have a look. Let's go into here. We don't need that anymore. kubectl get context. Is it get contexts? What context have I got? Oh, that's interesting. Get namespaces. Yes. So I'm not logged in. Ah, now. I have a number of kubectl context config. Hell, what can I do there? I can't remember. Oh yes, config kubectl config get contexts. Let's just truncate that so we can see it a little bit better. So I'm working on, I've got Docker desktop here. There it is up there. Da-da-da. And I'm also running a number of pods relating to the Open Documentation Initiative, CODOC, for sort of internal GitHub Enterprise Server, GitHub Actions stuff. Okay, that's got CODOC context. And the current context, which is highlighted by a star, is this context relating to my Kyma instance, my Kyma cluster on my trial account on the Business Technology platform. So that's my current context, but cf get deployments, which cf list, what? It's not cf, kubectl get deployments. You must be logged into the server. Now, how many of you, let me know in the chat, how many of you come across this? I've got an idea of what we could do actually next to sort my situation out. Got a message there, what's going on? The problem is that I have been using some credentials, kubeconfig credentials, that I've got from doing this, get kubeconfig. And I can download those. I'll download it to the desktop. It's a file, a YAML file, and that contains credentials that allow me to interact. Those credentials only last, I think it's 8 hours. So clearly I've not used this for a while. Yes, exactly, Burak. Download new kubeconfig. Exactly. So that's what we've just done. So let's just, take those small steps first. So I can see here that there's that kubeconfig.yaml file. And I've also got, of course, a config file inside of the .cube directory. right, which is the default config file. That config file, if I say kube control config, what was it? Get contexts config help, I think I can say, yes, if the cube, right at the top there, if the cube config flag is set, then only that file is loaded. So I could say get contexts kubectl get context config get contexts kube config dot kube config. Not get context. Sorry, what am I talking about? Get clusters. Get context. What is it? What am I looking for? Oh, view. Is it view? Yes, there we go. So as you can see here, where is it? I've got kube config view. I've got a number of clusters, right? There's one cluster. That's our Kyma cluster. I've got another cluster, this Kodoc cluster. And I've got also another cluster, which is on Azure. And I've got another cluster, which is my Docker. Okay, so I've got different contexts as well, right? Oh. There we go, yeah, there. And all sorts of things. So I've got different things here. Now, so you can see that in my .cube config, I've already got a context with client authentication details, but they've expired. Okay, I had the details of the kube config file in. I put it in to my .cube/config file. So Barak is saying, for this problem, I lost my 2 hours when I tried first time. Okay, so yeah, let's deal with this, right? Let's go through this. Ooh, yeah, that's nice. Let's first of all think about what we can do with this freshly downloaded kube config file, right? But there's also a better solution for this longer term. Ooh, message, what's that? Which we'll look at shortly. And there's a tutorial from my friend and colleague Marius, which we might do together, right? So first of all, what that means, what we've done is we've got a kube config. In fact, let's have a look. Config view, kube config. Can we do this? Desktop kube config. Yes. So let's just make that slightly small. I'll just make that slightly smaller for a second, right? Over there, that's the contents of the kube config.yaml file that we've just downloaded from our Kyma cluster using this, get kube config. So in there is that. Don't worry about reading the text if it's a bit small at the moment. We just want to see the size of it. Let's do that again. There. Let's open up another thing here. And kube config, kubectl. What was that one again? Sorry, we want to do this. Over here, we'll do this one, right? And over here, we'll do config view, because it just goes, my head's in the way. View kube config, the one on the desktop kube config. So that's that there, and that is that one there. So we can see there's a big difference. This one above me is the one that we've just downloaded, and it only has, of course, cluster information and context information and token information, authentication information for that particular cluster, that Kyma cluster in my trial account. And it's super up to date, right? Because we just downloaded it. Over, now which one I'm going to point? Over there, is that right? I can't tell which way I'm pointing. I need to get used to this. Anyway, the longer display has information on that Kyma cluster, but it's out of date. That sort of the user information, the token, is out of date. That's why we can't authenticate. That's why it's saying, oh, you need to authenticate. But it's also got cluster information and context information for other clusters as well. Now, that's that. Let me just bring that larger again. I've got a little script I've been using to merge new kubeconfig files, like the one that we've just downloaded, into the main config file, and then deletes it. So my workflow was go here, download a kubeconfig file, run the merge, which basically all it does is it makes sure you specify the new file, which is going to be the desktop kubeconfig.yaml. And then it runs this command, right? It runs the command kubeconfig config view merge flatten into a temp file, and then moves the temp file to the kubeconfig file. Now, let's just go through that again. It appends, or it adds on the new file, the location of the new file and the location of the existing file, the .kubeconfig, in a sort of a path thing. You know, like you have multiple directories in your paths, so that your shell can find the command you want to run. Kubeconfig works the same. So you can say, I've got multiple kubeconfig files. I want to merge those. I want to sort of have those all together, and then you can say, right, that's where it is. I'm using the kubeconfig environment variable, and then on that line there, the kubectl will operate, the config will operate on all those files. We'll view them, and then we'll merge them and flatten them so that they all sort of merge into one. And then we'll write it to a temporary file, right, in /tmp, and then we'll move that temporary file to the kubeconfig file. The reason we don't write it straight in, we don't redirect it straight into the .kube/config file, is that because in a pipeline things start to happen at once, you may run the risk of appending to 0 what's already in the kubeconfig file. Okay, so we could do this. In fact, yeah, let's just do that there, and let's have that there, and then say kubeconfig equals desktop kubeconfig colon home.kubeconfig kubectl config view, which is what we did before, right? So that, make that a bit smaller again for a second, right? That gives us the same size of information as we had before, because all we've done is we've merged, overwritten the more up-to-date version of the kubeconfig from Kyma into our main one. And we're just viewing it, right? We haven't overwritten it. So what we'll do now is we'll use that to log in. We won't merge it right now because we've got a better solution. So let's go up there. If I say let's just do it again, kubectl get deployments, for example. Ooh. TS, you must be logged in. But if I say kubectl equals desktop kubeconfig, actually that's all we need really. We could add this as well, but the first one comes first. Home.kubeconfig, and then say kubectl get deployments. We don't get the error message. There's nothing in there, so we get a correct response. But that's that. Now, one thing that is, this is nice. We can merge this. We can say kc merge desktop kubeconfig, and now we can just say control get deployments. Okay, it's because we've merged that kube config that we just downloaded into our .cube config file in our home directory. So that's fine, but we still got to do that every day. We still got to do it every 8 hours. So instead, I did look for it this morning actually. Marius, there we go. Marius Obert, Kyma Service Account SAP. It's a tutorial. And Marius says, the kube config file that you're currently using is based on your user account, which represents a user that has been logged into the Kyma dashboard when you download the kube config file. Yes. This file contains a token that expires after 8 hours. This tutorial will show you how to create a new kube config file based on a service account. Basically, that won't expire after 8 hours. So, I think the last thing I'll do this morning in this live stream, we've been going 2 hours now, is go through this tutorial. Why not? This should solve the problem and set us up properly for managing Kyma cluster artifacts and Kubernetes for the developer keynote and also for future developments. So let's do that. Okay, so let's move, in fact, why not move this across to here? Let me make that on this side so we can all see it, right? Is that readable? Yeah. So, step 1, create a namespace. The kube config file, blah, 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 blah. Service accounts are bound to a namespace, so we need to create a new namespace before any service account can be created. Run the following command and create a new namespace tutorial. Well, in fact, rather than use the word tutorial, I'm going to use the word kubectl. Okay, so in fact, kubectl get namespaces. What namespaces have we got so far? They all look standard to me. Active 8 days. That was when I refreshed my trial account, I think, and therefore that was when the Kyma cluster was recreated for me. So that sounds about right. And they're all the same age and therefore all created at the same time, and they're all sort of the default ones. So I'll say kubectl create namespace qmacro. Namespace qmacro created. Kube get namespaces. There it is, 16 seconds old. Perfect. Okay, so let's go across to here. In fact, let's log in. Da, da, da. There's me. So I can say now, ooh, done. Okay, create service account. A service account alone won't do the job. You also need to define a role that contains all the desired permissions and assign it to a service account with a role binding. You need to create all 3 artifacts to use a service account. So this is classic Kubernetes, right? At the outset, it seems super complex because everything's sort of split out, right? You have lots of small artifacts joined together in different ways. So here we've got a service account. We've got a role. We've got a role binding, which will connect the role to the service account. And also, I think down, yeah, it just says there as well. Oops. Also, down there, we've got a config map. So it says here, create a new file called tutorial SA service account YAML with the following payload to create all artifacts, service account, role binding, and a config map for verification. I had a quick read of this morning, and I love that because it's so Marius. Really nice little, nice little funny thing at the end with the config map. So let's just grab that. What am I doing here? Copy. Did I copy that? What's going on? Copy. I'm going to go into my home directory for now. Cat paste into, I'm going to call it qmacro sa.yaml. So we've got this thing here. So there we go. Note that rules section specifies the permissions of the service account. Modify this section to adjust the roles to your needs. Now, given that, let's just have a stare at this for a second. It's always good staring at stuff that you don't quite understand. And actually, I'm going to mess about with it as well, because I know, or I've got a vague recollection, this helps me sort of understand things. The start of a YAML document optionally, or sorry, a YAML document, let's call it, not a file, but a YAML thing, a definition, starts with 3 dashes. Let's go across to here. YAML 3 dashes start. Yeah, there we go. YAML uses 3 dashes to separate directives from document. Oh, it's not a separate. It's not a starter. It's a separator. But I've seen it at the very start of a document as a file as well. YAML uses 3 dashes. That's a Stack Overflow answer. So, yeah, it says the file starts with 3 dashes. The 3 dashes indicate the start of a new YAML document. YAML supports multiple documents. So that's what these dashes are all about, okay? So theoretically, and if it doesn't work, it's my fault, theoretically, we can also have 3 dashes here because it's saying this is the start of this first document, this first YAML thing. And the definition is this definition of a service account. Tutorial, 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 tutorial role, tutorial config map. Okay, so let's just do a mass thing. Tutorial Q macro, but apart from that one, right? So tutorial there. So Q macro service account is a kind service account. We've got the role definition here. Okay. And we're going to call that Q macro role. It's got some rules as well. I mean, I don't know all of these different API groups things here. I recognize all the resources. There are deployments, replica sets, pods, all the things that we normally deal with. We've got the different verbs, as in what you can do with these things, I guess, right? So that makes sense as a, the content of a role. What sort of stuff can you do? But then you've got a role binding. Right, so let's go and have a look at the role binding. The role binding says, well, first of all, the role binding, everything has a name, right? All these myriad things, the role binding, the service user, the whatever, the config map, they've all got names. So why not call it Q macro role binding? But then the details, the extra information here, is what the binding is all about. It basically binds the role reference, which is the Q macro role, to this subject, which is a service account. So you could bind a role to something that's not a service account, I guess, a different kind. So again, it's just staring at the YAML file. That's what I do anyway. It's like, well, what is this? And then also not related specifically to creating this service account with the right roles bound to it. We've got this little config map thing, right? But we'll come to that shortly. So save that. And what it's saying here is create a service account based on the file. So just like anything else with Kyma, with Kubernetes, kubectl, apply, as in, this is the state I want in this file here, qmacro.sa, but we want all these things in this Q macro namespace, the namespace we created before. It says tutorial namespace, but we use the Q macro namespace. So service account, Q macro service account created. This role was created. The role binding was created. And the config map was created. I wonder if you can see them. It's kubectl get, role bindings. Oh, what's going on? Bindings. There. Oh, yes. kubectl get role bindings, but I'm only being shown the role bindings in the default namespace. I guess we need to specify the namespace Q macro, right? There it is, namespace the namespace is qmacro role binding. Sorry, in this namespace, the name of the role binding is qmacro role binding. 42 seconds old. Perfect. Okay, so far so good. Understand the structure of the configuration file, right? The kubeconfig file. When we saw this, we've seen this already, haven't we? We've seen the kubectl config view desktop. Oh, we've merged it already. So config. Well, let's download it again. Actually, let's download one again. We're not going to, use it, but let's download it. Desktop kubeconfig. What? Kubectl config view. Oh, sorry, yeah. Kubeconfig. There. Thanks for the company, Ronnie. Let me know, in the chat or on Twitter later on. Yeah, let me know on Twitter whether you found this worthwhile. Is it worth doing again? Just a slightly less manic, longer episode. Thanks for joining, Ronnie. So there we go. We've got here our kubeconfig file, and Marius sort of takes a bit of time to also, help us stare at this. There's nothing strange about this. We've got cluster information. There, cluster information, user information, and contexts. Right, so we've got cluster information, user information with tokens, right, which gives authentication, and contexts. Oh, thank you, Ronnie. You're still there? The answer to that is yes. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. It makes me feel slightly closer to you folks in the community. So, good. Right, so this is the sort of thing that we want to now create. And Marius is going to say, yeah, this is the sort of thing we're aiming for. And as you can see here, let's look at the cluster information. We've got the cluster, we've got the certificate authority data. Okay, it's, we're not putting that in there because it's just a massive load of, encoded stuff. Doesn't help us. Ping me on Twitter later today. Thanks, Ronnie. Take care. We've got the server, API server.something ID. That's my ID, C681FDC3. That's the ID of my cluster that's been recreated for me. That same ID appears in the name of the cluster and in the context, right? And the context's name. And then we've got the user, name OIDC user. And the token is not omitted, it's redacted, as in deliberately not shown for specific reasons, i.e. usually security reasons, right? We're not showing this because of security. We're omitting this data because it's, but we're not showing you this because it's secure. OIDC user, we've seen that before, haven't we? If we say kubectl get contexts, we can see the OIDC user. What? Oh, sorry, yeah. Config get contexts. I'm still not used to these kubectl. There we go. So there's our contexts. The current context is with a star. That's the name of our context, which we've just seen in the configuration file. That's the name of the cluster, which happens to be the same name as the name there. And there's our user. Let me make that a bit smaller for a second. There's the auth info, OIDC user. That's where we saw it, okay? So let's go back. Go to the next step to learn how to fill this template with proper value. Oh, I've done that as well. Done. Woohoo. Down. Done. Yeah, okay, fine. Done. And now create a new kubeconfig. This is fantastic. So let's copy this. Cat temp.sh. Oh, did I copy that? I didn't copy that. Copy. Cat temp.shell. Oh, I did copy. Oh, it was the same. Vi temp.shell. And we can see here, it's a little bit of a shell script that uses various kubectl config commands to get information and to supply it in there, the token as well, right? Token cube get secret. Look at this. kubectl get secret, secret name, and then it grabs the information from the JSON inside the secret, base64 decodes it, and that's what we want, and that's what we need to put into here, into the token. So let's go back here. And run it. Oh, we'll keep that same size actually. So in fact, we don't need to execute, we'll just do that, right? temp.show into kubemacro kube config.yaml. Wait. What have I done wrong? What have I done wrong? I chose the namespace tutorial, kubemacro, not tutorial. That's it. Tutorial service account. I think did I call it kubemacro service account? I did, didn't I? Yes. There we go. I changed it because, you know, it's less generic, but also I changed it partly, and I do this quite a lot, I do change it partly to trip myself up so I can learn more. So let's try that again. There we go. kubemacro kubeconfig.yaml. And now we can replace, what I'll do, I'll just put this aside for now. Well, actually, no. Yeah, I will do, because then we'll know we're not using that. So let's go into cd cube, copy, move config dot good. Now if I do a kubectl get deployments, you know, doesn't know where to connect to. But now I can say move, what did I call it? kubemacro kube config to config here, not to config good, to config. Try that again. Oh, yes, I need to look in the namespace kubemacro. There we go. It's worked. Now what I'll need to do is I'll probably do that service, I'll do the whole thing again, but I'll do it in the default namespace so I can mess around in the default namespace with the service user. Batuhan, is that a fist bump? Awesome. Welcome, by the way. I think that's it. I think that's probably a good time to finish. We've now got something that I can authenticate with. Yeah, I won't go through that again, but I will go through that again offline and create the service user, not in the kubemacro namespace, but in the default namespace. Oh yeah, we've got a final step. I don't want to sort of ignore the best bit of this tutorial from Marius. So let's just complete that one. Read the config map. So besides the service account, you also created a config map. Let's try and read a value from this map to check if the new kube config is working. kubectl get config maps, or map, singular plural I think is word, namespace, kubemacro. Did I call it kubemacro config map? Probably did, didn't I? Kubemacro config map. In fact, let's copy that, right? Let's go across to here. Copy, paste, but then just change that to kubemacro. Hooray! You completed the tutorial successfully. Fantastic. Marius, awesome tutorial. Woo! Oh, I got some sort of, yes, badge. Amazing. So do this tutorial. Do this tutorial and, you know, get away from the having to re-download the kube config every 8 hours. Yeah, I think that's it. I need another coffee, but I don't want to go and make a coffee while you wait. So I think we'll pull this to an end. Yeah, let me know on Twitter, or anyway, in the comments to this video when it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube now. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this experiment. Yeah, and have a wonderful day, rest of day. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, and I'll continue with this next week. We'll have a look at that other issue from Igisileas, from Burak, in detail and understand why Burak had the issue. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Bye from me, and see you next time.